Good afternoon. This is the Conscious Hour. Let's talk about rule of law. And does the president have the ability to pardon people? So if you commit a crime, the president can say, that's okay. No problem. Don't worry about it. We'll release you. If you look at the state of affairs where we are right now, and this is to Republicans and Democrats and people who aren't even political, and look at the state of our affairs in the United States, could anybody have imagined that we'd get to a point to where tyranny is acceptable, to where the starving of Gazans, Palestinians, is acceptable, that it's acceptable to lie to the American public about what the real mission is in Israel. But let's get back to President Trump and his ability now to pardon anyone he wants. So he could literally say to his militia that's on the streets now, you can commit crimes, don't worry about it, just get these people incarcerated so we can ship them out of this country, and if you kill a few, no problem, we'll pardon you. If you're a Christian, and you consider yourself a devout Christian, believing in the teachings of Jesus Christ, can you find any part of what Trump is doing is in line with your religion? I don't know of any religion that says thou shalt kill at one's discretion. But let's listen to what the experts have to say.
I want to talk about the pardon power for a second, because I don't think this has gotten nearly enough attention. And I put out a couple weeks ago a sort of a scorecard of the things I was worried about going into a second Trump administration and what had happened already and what hadn't. And like 70% of those things had already come to fruition. But one of the ones that hasn't yet, but that I think is on their to-do list, is the sort of end-to-end political weaponization of the pardon power. And I give an example about my firsthand experience in the Trump administration, which is there was an incident in which I mentioned to you where, we were at the border and Trump asked us to do something illegal and we said no. And the president said, well, if you go to jail, I will pardon you. And I've never witnessed personally a more corrupt act than the president saying, do something illegal and I have this get out of jail free card that I can give you for doing that. Listen, folks, he will do that again. And we haven't quite seen that. I think maybe with the Ghislaine Maxwell stuff, we're seeing potentially pardons, being dangled out there. But this could get really, really scary, is that Trump could convince his aides to do things that are so nakedly unconstitutional. Just go arrest my adversary right now, even if we haven't filed charges against them. And don't worry, I can pardon you if you get in trouble for doing that down the road. He has the ability to do that. And so I want to ask you, one, why do you think we haven't seen him yet do anything that egregious? And two, do you think that that's somewhere in the pipeline? Does he start to take the pardon power and wield it to get people to do things that are just blatantly against the law?
Great question. And I'll start with the way the Supreme Court has ruled in a way that encourages the corruption of the presidency. Once they gave him absolute immunity, he doesn't have to worry about a self-pardon anymore, does he? Because he can violate the laws of our nation. He can victimize the American people criminally, and he can't be held responsible in a court of law. So, I always quote constitutional scholar, Yale professor Akhil Reed Amar, who said the Supreme Court's presidential immunity ruling, in a very real and direct sense, ruled that the Constitution is unconstitutional. Because the express language of the Constitution says the president must take care to faithfully execute the laws of the country. Guess what? That's the exact opposite of the president can violate the laws of the country with impunity and immunity. That's just one way the Constitution contradicts what the radical right-wing bloc of the Supreme Court did. But to go to the pardon question,
That's what the right wing part of the court did. So I want to get to the right wing and left wing. right wingers. You know, the eagle is our bird, right? It can't fly with one wing, the right wing. It can't fly with a left wing. But look at what they've done to us. They've divided us into camps, so we're fighting amongst ourselves. And meanwhile, those who got us divided, let's say Congress and all the other presidents, keeping us divided in this little political party camp fight, they've won. Who's they? The military industrial complex that basically drives our whole economy. They've won because now they're above the law. They can do anything that they want, and Trump can come in as the premier king and say, "Bah, we have no problem. Keep killing. Let's keep going here."
The Supreme Court has endangered us all by not only giving Trump presidential immunity for core constitutional functions and official acts. There's a rebuttable presumption he's got immunity for that, can be rebutted by prosecutors. But they've said that the pardon power is a core constitutional function. So he can wield it as it's like a gun in his hand. I think that's actually something Justice Sotomayor may have said in her dissent. Powerful dissent. It is a weapon in the hands of the president by which he can violate the law and victimize the American people. And there's not a damn thing that can be done about it. So you go to the next level. Okay, if he can commit crimes with impunity and immunity, what about when he directs other people to commit crimes? And what Justice Sotomayor said in her dissent was, and I think she said this, I've read so many recently, but he can direct criminal acts by his high government officials, his executive branch officials and employees, and then pardon them for those criminal acts. And everybody gets away with those crimes. You know, that is no system of government that is recognizable to us here in America. I found it interesting that when
So look what's happening to America right now, folks. People can barely make ends meet. Prices of everything have gone sky high. They're going to keep going higher and higher. We're mass deporting people that have lived in our country for years and years, 10, 20, 30 years. They've worked in our fields. They've worked in our factories. And somebody says, well, they were illegal. Well, let's put it to you this way. They weren't illegal. The thing that was illegal were the corporations having them work for them, not paying them a livable wage, not paying into Social Security, not paying any social benefits for them. That's criminal. But now Trump said, no, we got to get rid of all of these foreigners, basically. What his attitude is he's a white extremist. This is exactly what's happening. The old Jim Crow days. We're going to go out and get rid of all of these people of color. We don't need them in our country. And look at the chaos that's happening. It isn't going to get any better because, unfortunately, he's created his militia, and this has been brewing for a long time, the Proud Boys and all of this. It goes back to a 2020 article in Wayne LaPierre's in the Rifleman magazine. The front page was said "Fight," and I read that. It was a December edition, I think. And I read that article and I went, holy shit. We're ready for civil war in this country. We're getting ready for something big. Look where we are, folks. You had the January 7th, 6th, whatever that date was. I get the dates 6th. Raid on the Capitol. It was just the warming up of what was coming. And I watched this and I went, whoa. He has captured and unleashed that deep sentiment in many people that they don't like their government because the government's never done anything for them. And he fueled that so they would create that action that they took. And then, of course, look where we are. He was elected president. How did he get elected president? Well, some people could blame it on Jill Stein. Jill Stein was the only candidate that would uphold the Constitution of the United States. Jill Stein's the only candidate that would cut back on the wars immediately. Why? Because we, the taxpayer, are paying, since Vietnam, well, there's been more than a quadrillion of dollars spent on the war machine. It's massive. But look what it did to our country. Nothing. Look at the state of affairs in the United States. Look at our highway systems. Look at our bridges that are falling apart. Look at our rail transport systems, which are archaic. Because of what? Because of a bunch of money people who are hooked on the game of Monopoly on steroids, and all they want to do is make profits. And the final last statement I have, what's ironic is our money hasn't been worth anything since 1971, and these people are blowing up the world because they think they're making money, and it's nothing. Oh, it is. It's money. No, no, no. It's simply credits, and that's a whole other chapter. How to get out of this constant war machine and make prosperity for everybody in the world. This is the Conscious Hour, folks. Time to speak out. Speak out quickly because it's fast running out.